Guys. So today we are going to be practicing with character change for the well, not last time really, but today is the wrap up of character change, I should say. Um, so what we're going to be looking at is sorry, you're getting to watch me move my stuff around here. My handy dandy little anchor chart here. And what we're going to talk about is a story called Slower Than the Rest. I'm going to read this story, and then we're going to go over some of the different ways that characters change. And then today you are going to be doing something very similar with these type of task. Ooh, I gotta get it together. And you're going to be looking at or thinking about deeply how characters change and why they change. So not just mentally, but also physically. And in the Flipgrid, I kind of ask you to do that also with your own lives. So first thing I'm going to do is actually read the story to you, and then we're going to go over I'm going to just give you some examples of some types of questions. But before I read, I want to go over this anchor chart. It's called Character change, and it's throughout a story, characters can change and evolve in several ways. So here's two main ways that characters can change. They can change physically, and they can change behaviorally or with their attitudes. So basically what that means is physically changes in the way a character looks. So you have like when you're little, this little girl, I guess, has short hair, and then she grows to be bigger and has longer hair. So over time, that's a physical change. And then attitude or behavior changes in the way the character acts, thinks, or feels. So this is more, I think, what people think about whenever they think of character change in a shorter story. You don't see a lot of physical change whenever you're reading a short story or a short passage. You might have something like an event about a bad haircut or something like that. So that might be a physical change. But when it comes to analyzing the character, a lot more times we analyze them and their personalities and their feelings and their actions. So this is our little plot roller coaster, which I feel like in writing and reading, I've hit a lot of times with you guys. But it's important, and I'm going to keep using it as an example for you to understand the beginning, middle, and end of a story, or the exposition, that climax, which is the most exciting part, and then that falling action and getting into the resolution or the ending. So there's three big things that we discover about a character in a story using that story plot. And that is that in the beginning, we're kind of just learning about the character's strengths and weaknesses. So what are the things that they're really good at? What are the things that they're not good at? What are the things that they like? We're just learning about the character's beginnings. And then in the middle here, the climax, or those even the rising action times, we're looking at events. Okay, so the middle is more full of what are the events that are occurring that cause the character to think or feel differently. So that's more of what we're learning in the middle of a passage or a book about a character. They're changing because something is happening in the story, an event is happening in the story that's making them go through that change. And then the last thing is the resolution. What do we see about a character's change in the resolution? Well, that's where we ultimately see the change and where they grow from their experience. 9 times out of 10, a fictional story has a lesson that is learned, and that's what it's referring to there is how did that character grow from that change that took place. Okay, so let me kind of get settled in here, and I'm going to actually shut my classroom door. The whole world doesn't need to listen to me teach character change. Actually, at school, kind of late year, and I just figured, why not record a lesson about character change? So, anyway, this story is called Slower Than the Rest. And it's a great story. If I tear up a little, I'm sorry, but it does kind of hit me in the feels sometimes. So as I'm reading, I want you to listen carefully. I'm actually, just so you know, on the slide that this video is connected to, the Explore slide, there's a link and it says Slower Than the Rest Reading Passage. So while you're listening to me read, you can also go to that link and pull up the actual reading passage. So you can do one of two things. You could pull it up and minimize the video and just listen to me read it while you're looking at it. Or you can split your screen using the ALT and the two brackets button at the same time. And you can simply go ahead and split your screen, and then you can have me teaching and talking and reading on one side of your screen, and you can have your passage on the other side of the screen. So those are two options for you. You can pause the video right now and kind of set yourself up for success by putting the reading passage up on your screen, because I definitely think it's important to look at it while I'm reading it, so that you can think deeply about what's happening in the text. So again, go back to your Explorer slide, click on the PDF the link that says Slower Than the Rest Reading Passage by Cynthia Ryland, and have that either pulled up on your screen or split screen where you're pulled it up next to the video that I'm teaching with right now. All right, so while we're reading, I want to listen for, in the beginning, what is the main character's strengths and weaknesses? In the middle, we're listening for what events are taking place that changes the character a little bit about their life, changes their feeling, or causes the character to think a little bit differently. That's a better way of putting it. And then you're listening to the end of the story, where you're listening for how does the main character grow. So here we go. Leo was the first one to spot the turtle, so he was the one who got to keep it. They had all been in the car driving up Tyler Mountain to church when Leo shouted, "There's a turtle!" and everyone's head jerked with the stop. Leo's father grumbled something about turtle soup, but Leo's mother was sympathetic toward turtles, so Leo was allowed to pick it up off the highway and bring it home. Both his little sisters squealed when the animal struck its ugly head out to look at them, and they thought its claws horrifying. But Leo loved it from the start, and he named it Charlie. The dogs at Leo's house had always belonged more to Leo's father than to anyone else, and the cat thought she belonged to no one but herself. That's very typical. So Leo was grateful for a pet of his own. He settled Charlie in a cardboard box, threw in some lettuce and radishes, and declared himself a happy boy. Leo adored Charlie, and the turtle was hugged and kissed as if he were a baby. Leo liked to fit Charlie's shell on his shoulder and under his left ear, just as one might carry a cat, and Charlie would poke his head into Leo's neck now and then to keep them both entertained. Leo was 10 years old that year he found Charlie. He hadn't many friends because he was slower than the rest. That was the way his father said it, slower than the rest. Leo was slow in reading, slow in numbers, slow in understanding nearly everything that passed before him in a classroom. And as a result, in 4th grade, Leo had been separated from the rest of his classmates and placed in a room with other children who were as slow as he. Leo thought he would never get over it. He saw no way to be happy after that. But Charlie took care of Leo's happiness, and he did it by being congenial. Charlie was the friendliest turtle anyone had ever seen. The turtle's head was always stretched out, moving left to right and trying to see what was in the world. His front and back legs moved as though he were swimming frantically in a deep sea to save himself. And when all that was happening was that someone was holding him in midair. Put Charlie down, and he would sniff at the air a moment and then take off as if no one had ever told him how slow he was supposed to be. Every day Leo came home from school, took Charlie to the backyard to let him explore, and told him about the things that had happened in 5th grade. Leo wasn't sure how old Charlie was, and though he guessed Charlie was probably a young turtle, the lines around Charlie's forehead and eyes and the clamp of his mouth made Leo think Charlie was wise, the way old people are wise. So Leo talked to him privately every day. Then one day, Leo decided to take Charlie to school. It was Prevent Forest Fires Week, and the whole school was making posters, watching nature films, and imitating Smokey the Bear. Each member of Leo's class was assigned to give a report on Friday dealing with Forrest, so Leo brought Charlie. Leo was quiet about it on the bus to school, and he held the covered box tightly on his lap, secretly relieved that turtles are quiet except for an occasional hiss. Charlie rarely hissed in the morning. He was a turtle who liked to sleep in. Leo carried the box to his classroom, and he placed it on the wide windowsill near the radiator and beside the geraniums. And his teacher called attendance, and the day began. In the middle of the morning, the forest reports began. One girl held up a poster board pasted with pictures of raccoons and squirrels, rabbits and deer, and she explained that animals died in forest fires. The pictures were too small for anyone to see from his desk, and Leo was bored. So we're kind of like going up this little arc here right now. We're not quite to the most exciting part or a turning point in the story. We're kind of riding that roller coaster to the top, building up to the climax. One boy stood up and mumbled something about burnt up trees, and then another got up and said if there were no forests, then his dad couldn't go hunting, and Leo couldn't see the connection in that at all. Finally, it was his turn. He quietly walked over to the windowsill and picked up the box, and he set it on the teacher's desk. When somebody throws a match into a forest, Leo began, he is a murderer. He kills trees and birds and animals, and some animals, like deer, are fast runners and they might escape. But other animals, he lifted the cover off the box, have no hope. They are too slow and they will die. He lifted Charlie out of the box. It isn't fair, he said as the class gasped and giggled at what they saw. It isn't fair for the slow ones. Leo said much more. Mostly he talked about Charlie, explained what turtles were like, the things they enjoyed, what talents they possessed. He talked about Charlie the turtle and Charlie the friend, and what he said and how he said it made everyone in the class love turtles and hate forest fires. Leo's teacher had tears in her eyes. I told you guys, I get a little emotional because there's a lot of deep meaning in what is happening. So we're definitely getting to that. We're in that climax right now. He's doing something that's super brave and presenting in front of the class, and there's a metaphor there of him basically comparing, the slow turtle to him being called slow. So really think about that. Okay, in this moment of this kid standing in front of a whole class and explaining how unfair it is that everybody kind of leaves these slow animals behind, and how he's comparing that to him and how he feels about his life. That afternoon, the whole school assembled in the gymnasium. Oh, sorry, I skipped a page. Oh, no, just kidding. I did not skip a page. Yeah, sorry. That afternoon, the whole school assembled in the gymnasium to bring the special week to a close. A ranger in uniform made a speech, and then someone dressed up like Smokey the Bear danced with the others dressed up like squirrels. Leo sat with the box and wondered if he should laugh at the dancers with everyone else, but he didn't feel like it. Finally, the school principal stood up and began a long talk, and Leo's thoughts drifted off, and he thought about being home and lying in his bed and drawing pictures while Charlie hobbled all about the room. He did not hear when someone whispered his name, and then he jumped when he heard, "Leo, it's you," in his ear. The boy next to him was pushing him, making him get up. "What?" Leo asked, looking around in confusion. "You won," they were all saying. "Go on." So he won the essay contest. Leo was pushed onto the floor. So I want you to imagine the gym. Okay, you're in the gym and everybody in the school, right? And that's what this is happening. He's being pushed up to the front, in front of everybody. And he already doesn't feel great about himself. So definitely this turning point is happening right now. It's a different part of the story. It's the most exciting part of the story. And stuff is going to change for Leo. "You won," they were all saying. "Go on." Leo was pushed onto the floor, and he saw the principal smiling at him, beckoning to him across the room. Leo's legs moved like Charlie's, quickly and forward. Leo carried the box tightly against his chest, and he shook the principal's hand. He put down the box to accept the award plaque being handed to him. It was for his presentation with Charlie. Leo had won an award for the first time in his life. And as he shook the principal's hand and blushed and said his thank yous, he thought his heart would explode with happiness. That night, alone in his room, holding Charlie on his shoulder, Leo felt proud for once. And for the first time in a long time, Leo felt fast. So this story doesn't really ride a traditional plotline. It does a lot of buildup, okay? And I would say that the arc or the climax of the story is more like here, and then the resolution and the falling action into the resolution after that big moment in the gym kind of quickly comes to an end. And that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes it's very different. But the point of this lesson is more on how did he change? He didn't change so much physically. They didn't really talk about that. When he's talking about slow and fast, he's not talking about how slow he is at running or how fast he is at running. He's talking about mentally, how he feels like things are just harder for him all the time. And then in the end, after this huge moment in the gym where he actually feels like he did something amazing, and he did. He went through a change, a feeling like from the beginning he felt slow and he thought he'd never be happy again. It even says that in the past. To the end, after that big moment in the gym, that turning point, he changed and he learned and he grew from that. And he felt proud and he felt fast mentally again. And I would be willing to bet that his character then, if this story were to go on, would be other ways that he possibly would start to improve because of that turning point, because of that change in how he's acting and thinking and feeling now. So I want you to think deeply about that. And honestly, go back and if you didn't follow the directions and open that PDF up, or sorry, that I keep saying PDF because that's what it is. But if you didn't open up the story and then read it yourself, now that you've listened to it, go back and read it again. Because not only is it a great story to display character change, but it's a great story to learn from and to think about and to feel empathy for people who sometimes struggle. Because we can't just be unfair and ignore them. And we can't just be unfair and not pretend like everybody's different and everybody learns at different paces and everybody picks up on things differently. And that's not just in school, that's in life in general. Everybody has their own moment and everybody is living their own life. So it's important for you to remember that even if you are slower than the rest, or even if you're faster than the rest, that there are other people in this world and that you can make a difference. So thanks for listening to the character change lesson and to my little moral lesson for you for today. Again, read it again if you didn't pull it up. And good luck on your formative on the story that you're going to be taking a quiz on the apply slide. It's really not difficult. Please make sure that you write complete sentences and explain with detail using details from the text. All right, thanks guys. Bye.